Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity of being here, showing part of our result on improving the use efficiency of critical nutrients for agriculture and soil health in Mediterranean areas. I'm going to talk about inorganic and organic-based fertilizers. Sorry. Well, just a few pictures of Córdoba here. You can see the rectorate of the University of Córdoba in the left part, and in the right part, the Roman bridge, and also the mosque that is 1,000 years old. So you can see here where is Córdoba within the peninsula, the Iberian Peninsula is here. You have Portugal in the west and North Africa in the south. You can see also that this valley, this is the Guadalquivir Valley, is where we produce most of our agricultural production. And in the north, we have Sierra Morena, and what we have here is acorns for Iberian pork. Okay, well, Quercus ilex, I mean. Well, just more pictures. If you like Game of Thrones, this is the Roman bridge in Game of Thrones. This is the Almodóvar Castle. More pictures of the Flowers Festival in the patios, the mosque inside and outside. While this is our research group, we are two full professors, one emeritus professors who started the group in the 70s, working on P dynamics in soil, and myself. And then we have a postdoc, 5 PhD students, and different visiting researchers from other places, and also our own students, and 7 lab technicians. Well, I'm gonna introduce myself just quickly. I'm an agriculture engineer. This is 5 years it used to be 5 years in Spain, now it's 4 in the whole Europe. Then I did my PhD on phosphorus and iron nutrition in calcareous soils. Then I did I have a postdoctoral position still in the University of Córdoba, working with entomopathogenic fungi as plant growth promoters. And then I moved to the UK, where I did two postdoc. The first one working on extreme flooding, the effect on soil quality, and then on nutrient use efficiency, working in different international projects with China and Brazil. So I moved a lot during this time. And then I came back to Spain with another postdoc position. And finally, I was assistant and associate professor. Okay, this is how much is raining in Córdoba, in the south of Spain. From 2001 to 2017, it was around 600 millimeters, but in the last 20 years, from 2004 to 2023, it was only the total mean precipitation, the cumulative precipitation, was 100 millimeters lower. So it doesn't rain too much. And the main problem is that when it rains, it could rain a lot, like 50, 60 millimeters. Our soils, well, we have a wide variety. This, for example, is a vertisol with expandable clays. We have also terra rosa from calcareous material and iron oxides. We also have calcareous cambisols, calcisols, in general, inceptisols, according to the soil taxonomy. But we also have leptosols, like these ones, in which we produce vineyards. We have vineyards and we produce wine of high quality, but you can see that the depth, the effective depth is only 20, 30 centimeters, but the wine is really, really good quality. And also in this case, in Malaga, near the beach, we were also evaluating different soil profiles. So the parent material is mainly sandstone, limestone, marls in this south part of Spain. And as you can see here, this is also happening in the west of Portugal, in the middle of the peninsula, in the north, in the east, and in the south. So Córdoba is this province, you can see. All these soils have a really low content in organic matter. So this is the main problem, according to the soil mission 2030. And the mineralogy is dominated by calcium carbonate, so calcareous parent materials, and iron oxides. What makes that the P availability is very low, but also for zinc, also for micronutrients in general, iron. because the calcium carbonate buffers the soil pH around 8, so the solubility of these nutrients is very low. And when we applied phosphorus, if it's solubilized quickly, can participate in precipitation reactions, can be absorbed onto the iron oxide surfaces, and of course can interact with organic matter. In general, it's low, the content, but I'm going to talk about bio-based fertilizers, so this point is important. We cannot forget that the main objective of agriculture is to feed the world population, not only in amount, but also in good quality food. Sorry. But at the same time, of course, we have national and European policies and strategies that we should follow, in which they say that we should reduce our negative impact on the environment. There are many soil management options, agricultural practices. I'm going to be focused today in the application of organic matter and how it affects soil functionality and health, and mainly nutrient use efficiency and a bit about soil biodiversity. Well, the main aim of our research group in general, one of the main aims, is to understand nutrient dynamics in soil. We are experts in soil mineralogy, so we use this knowledge to enhance nutrient use efficiency in general. For that, and in this case, today I'm going to talk about the use of inorganic and organic fertilizers and their effects on soil nutrient content, availability to plants, and soil microorganisms. But I'll be focused only on phosphorus. So if we compare inorganic and bio-based fertilizers, the first ones have a high concentration in phosphorus, but they can participate in precipitation and absorption reactions in soil. They depend on non-renewable sources, phosphate rock that is limited, and in the last years, the price is increasing. But when we use bio-based fertilizers, they have a low to medium P concentration, a lower concentration in general, and they should be mineralized before releasing nutrients. So the process is slower than in the first place. But we can manage them and we can improve soil functionality, soil health, and encouraging or supporting circular economy. We are doing different pot experiments under controlled conditions, but also field experiments. This is a picture of a pot experiment, of course, with wheat. In these experiments, we are using a controlled treatment in which we don't apply phosphorus. Then we use an inorganic fertilizer, the ammonium phosphate or super 18, depending on the experiment. Oh, I think I commit a mistake because this is the same picture, but anyway. And then we use a selection of bio-based fertilizers, depending on the objectives of each study, like composted sewage sludge, composted olive meal pomace. This is very important for us in Andalusia. We are producing 50 to 60% of the total olive oil in the world, so this is very important for us. Composted urban soil residues, vermicompost, blood meal, estruvite in this case. Well, this is just a few pictures of us working in the field and of the different residues that we are using. Plant waste is a commercial fertilizer that can be used in organic farming. Well, more picture of us working in the field, preparing the products, applying them, and measuring some soil and plant indexes. So what we normally do is to apply different inorganic and organic resources in the field. The rates that we use, if we talk in terms of phosphorus, is between 20 and 30 kilograms of phosphorus per hectare, but this is for 2 years, for 2 different crops, because we normally have the rotation wheat the first year and then sunflower. In the last years, we are using more canola in the second year, and of course, sometimes we are introducing leguminous plant species in the second year. We are focusing on the biomass, yield production, NDVI, nutrient concentrations, etc., etc. And we are trying to understand how they affect the exploration of the soil, these fertilizers, so the radicular system, soil enzyme activities, and also soil microbiology. Well, this is just a characterization of different residues or products. Normally, when I say, for example, well, digestate, it's going to be composted digestate. For olive meal pomace, the same, composted olive meal pomace. This is, for example, DAP, the inorganic fertilizer, and 1, 2, 3, 4 different bio-based fertilizers with different P content, different pH, different properties. So the first experiment developed by Fernando and Jose Javier, student and PhD student, was focused on using different rates of phosphorus, but so what we did was to calculate the rate of phosphorus that we needed to add. Well, sorry, I say the opposite. We calculated the amount of fertilizers that we needed to add to have these 2 P doses in the soil. We use 4 different soils with different conditions. Normally, we use a sandy soil or an acidic soil just to compare, but we are more interested in calcareous soils. And for example, during the first crop, in the pot experiment, you can see here the yields. For the control treatment in the calcareous and the sandy soil, the yield for the inorganic fertilizer at the 2 different rates, you can see that it was super 18 in this case. And then the yields for blood meal, composted olive meal pomace, composted solid urban residues, vermicompost, sorry. You can see that blood meal was really, really bad, so we don't recommend this one in our conditions. We can see also that the best yields under calcareous conditions were for the inorganic fertilizers for wheat, but in the sandy soil, the last 2 bio-based fertilizers produce similar yields as the inorganic fertilizer. And during the second crop, sunflower, also in pots, you can see that the bio-based fertilizers, including composted olive meal pomace, behaved similar in the calcareous vertisol, and some of them better than the inorganic fertilizer. So as some of you mentioned before, bio-based fertilizers need more time in general. This is just a picture of the sunflower in pots. You can see the differences that were observed here in yield. Well, another experiment developed or done by Sana Bubesi and Lucia Guerrero was done also under controlled conditions in pots. In this case, we were more focused on heavy metal concentration in the byproducts and also in the soil after our crop cultivation. We use different soils. In this case, we use bio-based fertilizers alone or in combination with estrubite, okay? Reclaimed estrubite, of course, to get 50 milligrams of phosphorus per kilogram in this case. And for wheat, you can see on the left part, this is not working properly, yeah. On the left part, this is the source soil, one of the 2 soils that I'm showing results. This is another soil, and you can see the chromium content in the soil after the experiment, depending on the fertilizers that we use. I'm not going to focus on that, but the dynamics were different, of course, depending on the soil. And also the yields. I'm not going to talk too much about the yields, but in this case, good results were obtained for some products when we added estrubite in combination with some of the bio-based fertilizers. Well, let's move on to an experiment in the field, our typical rotation with sunflower. This is the Olsen P, the availability of phosphorus after 2 years. So after cropping wheat and sunflower. You can see that the lowest values were obtained for the control treatment, in which we didn't apply any phosphorus. It was around 15. And then we have the composite olive meal pomace and the vegetal residue, the commercial fertilizer for organic farming, that they didn't produce any increase in available P in the soil. But DAP, vermicompost, and composted digestate produced a slight increase. But the higher values were for composted solid urban residues. In terms of biomass, we didn't have too many differences, but in general, all the products or the fertilizers increase a bit the biomass production for wheat and sunflower. The second year was really, really, really dry. I don't know if it was, I don't remember exactly, but it was like 300, 350 millimeters. So not too much. We are also interested, as I mentioned, in evaluating how the radicular system or the soil is explored depending on these treatments. So we normally focus on the first phenological stages of wheat. In this case, we collect the cube of soils, we wash the roots, we scan the roots, and we process the images. And you can see here some results for control plants. This is a root of a plant. You can see, I think you can see some fine roots. If we don't add phosphorus, the plants are trying to get phosphorus from the soil, so they are producing fine roots. But when we applied 20 kilograms of phosphorus per hectare, you can see that there are not too many fine roots in this case. We are providing the phosphorus the plants need, so they don't explore the soil. And with the different bio-based fertilizers, you can see that, well, this is variable, no? The production of roots. So we ask ourselves if it could help to fight against drought, because we have more and more drought events with time. Well, Giulio was with us for 6 months, I think. He's from Italy, and he was doing a pot experiment following the same protocol, but in pot experiments. He has a calcareous and a non-calcareous soils, as is typical for us, and he evaluated how many meters of roots were produced per gram of root, depending on the fertilizers. You can see that for the control plants that didn't receive P, phosphorus, after 20 days, they produce the lowest specific root length in the calcareous soil, but in the non-calcareous soils, the highest values. And the rest of the fertilizers, including the inorganic fertilizer, well, varied. No? And we tried to correlate it with P uptake, the plant. This is a short experiment, so it was expected that the DAP was providing more phosphorus than the rest, but, and of course, for example, when for the control plants, we have a really high specific root length, but if you don't have phosphorus in the soil, the P uptake will be limited. But for us, it was a surprise in this case that only 20 days after the beginning of the experiment, the composted digestate was supplying phosphorus, not as much phosphorus as DAP, but was slightly different, no, in comparison with the control. And then we have the composted sewage sludge and vermicompost, but it depended on the soil. Well, following with the field experiment, we did the same for the radicular system, and in this case, it was a surprise because the fine roots production was really high under DAP after the application of the composted digestate and the composted urban soil residues. So if we look at phosphorus uptake, we partially can explain it by that, but not totally, to be honest, because, for example, digestate probably is not providing too much phosphorus in this case, no? But the highest values were obtained for composted urban soil residues, probably because of the quality of this organic matter that we are adding with composted urban soil residues. But these values were variable, of course, but higher than when we applied DAP. And the vermicompost was not bad too. And for phosphorus use efficiency, again, variable values, but up to 30% in the case of composted urban soil residues, much better than with DAP. And then vermicompost was okay because it was around 10%. Okay, this is including both crops, wheat and sunflower. What is going on in the soil with soil enzyme activities? And so we here the basic phosphatase activity after the first year. So in spring, during the first crop with wheat, what I expected was, I think, these values, lower values for most of the bio-based fertilizers, because we are applying phosphorus, so more phosphorus is available for microorganisms and plants, so they don't need to produce the enzymes. It didn't happen for the composted olive meal pomace. I think it was not well composted, so it has a high content in polyphenols that could affect the enzyme activity. So probably I would expect, I don't know, a change in the soil enzyme activity. And then I'm finishing now. Fungal diversity, we did some DNA sequenciation, and what we expected was that with DAP, with the inorganic fertilizers, the fungal diversity in the soil was reduced. It happened. It was a bit a surprise for olive meal pomace because it was increased fungal diversity. I think the soil microorganisms suffers from the application of olive meal pomace, but after a few months, probably they'll get a chance to get different or new or microorganisms that weren't there at the beginning. But for the composted urban soil residues, I think, well, it was really, really good results in comparison with the rest, and also taking into account that these plants were the ones absorbing more phosphorus from the soil. We are also doing some developing protocols for the different peoples to estimate it, because we don't like the Headley fractionation protocol, because this was not developed for calcareous soils, but we are comparing the results. This is very long because it's 9 steps, but so far we are happy. And we are evaluating, I'm not gonna talk too much about it, how the different bio-based fertilizers and the organic and the inorganic fertilizers are modifying the different peoples. And we are really interested in those that make the plant take phosphorus from originally non-available pools. We are getting some nice results on that. Well, for the potential manuscript associated to this event, we have an experiment under controlled conditions using wheat, 1 calcareous soils and non-calcareous soils. We are using no phosphorus application, DAP, and composted sewage sludge. And we are trying to make a balance between the soil before and after the application of the fertilizers and the experiment, and considering how much phosphorus is taking the plant, is absorbing the plant. This will be the title and the abstract, but don't look at that. The main properties of the different two soils and non-calcareous soils, no calcium carbonate, and the pH, you can see that is slightly, well, different. And also the P content for us, the limit is around 10 in our soils under rain-fed conditions. If we don't apply water, this is more or less our limit, critical value. Well, this is characterization of the two products that we are using here. And some results for one of the two soils. DAP and composted sewage sludge increased the biomass production, as you can see here, in comparison with the control. And then the yield, no differences were observed for the inorganic and the bio-based fertilizer, but both of them increase the production of grains for wheat. And in this case, this is the concentration of phosphorus in the soil. You can see that there is a significant increase after the application of the fertilizers. This is expected. Then we can see that in the straw of the wheat, there is only a significant increase when we applied DAP. And then for grain concentration, grain P concentration, the values were similar. So if we have similar yields and similar P concentration in grain, in this case, we can say that the phosphorus use efficiency in grain is going to be higher for the composted sewage sludge, okay? Because we have similar amount in the grain, but less in the straw. This is good, this is bad, depending on your soil P management. Well, just to finish, we can say that a proper management of soil, phosphorus, and bio-based fertilizers could help reducing the expenses of farmers in synthetic fertilizers under these conditions, but we should consider that the dynamics of these fertilizers in soils is really complex. We cannot extrapolate our results from one soil type to another. We can say that bio-based fertilizers combination is a good option in this case, just to provide, for example, more phosphorus in the case of some of these bio-based fertilizers in which we don't have too much at the beginning. And that all the tools that we use, they evaluate the radicular system, the soil peoples, soil microbial communities, were really useful for us to understand what is going on during our experiments. These are the experiments that we have going on based on phosphorus use efficiency, bio-based fertilizers, even biostimulants, regionally, nationally, and European funded. And also we are working with these companies in the same topic. Thank you so much.